Hello and welcome back. You're listening to the Vision. Uh, what podcast are you listening to now? You're listening to the Vision Divide podcast, and I'm here with a very special guest, someone I've enjoyed getting to know over these last couple of years. She is a community builder. She is a customer community marketing leader. She is a content maestro and maven when it comes to getting executives and customers and thought leaders to produce quality content that you need to put on a remarkable customer conference. She's done it all, folks. We're here with the one, the only Heather Foeh, joining us from an incredible vista. Heather, you're on the road there, it looks like.
I am. I am. I'm outside of Death Valley in the middle of nowhere in Nevada, right on the Nevada-California border. And we are in our fifth wheel that we have lovingly named Greta. And we're digital nomads for the last 6 months. So this is where we live.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a serious sort of space age, very cutting edge, if I may say, RV that you and your partner have invested in there. It's very cool. I'll just let the audience know if you can't see it. It's got amazing windows and vistas and things like that. She's got a deck. She's got a garage in there somehow. Heather, I don't know how you did that. I can't believe that's a real background behind you. It's a complete desert with some rolling mountains in the back. Like, what? Right. So cool. And you got a little festiveness. Tis the season, right?
Yeah, kind of decorate a little bit for the holidays, and options are limited in an RV. So we got these like fuzzy balls that are non-breakable, and there's all around that place. So
You could
we're
feel the
ready for the
festive
holidays.
cheer, both visually and just in your overall demeanor, Heather. It's going to be a great session for us throwing down here today. We're going to be talking about what does it take to be a great community manager? And by that, we mean a community leader. And then also, how do you pull great content out of that community? How do you pull in great content for that community when you want to bring them together on a user conference? Heather Foeh knows a lot about both. Heather, you have not always been a digital nomad. You are starting a new chapter. You're well deep into a new chapter of your life after a great run working full time for some great B2B brands. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about the run you've had working full time up to this point and building out communities and like helping put on major remarkable customer events and what you're up to now and what that transition's been like?
Yeah, happy to do it. I started my career in marketing in the dark ages when a website was like a page that had a
Right.
blinking text going across with your phone number.
Kind of miss those days.
So yeah, it was very a lot of lime green. And happily it was kind of at the beginning of marketing automation. So got to be an early stage customer of Eloqua. And that led me to a great job at Eloqua, which is still one of the highlights of my career. There was a good vibe there, and it's the network that I got out of that job has helped me get pretty much every other job I've had since then, which is great. So,
All about the network.
oh man, seriously. So, did customer success there, customer marketing for a while. Had a great title called Customer Culture, which was fantastic, and that's the title I had when I built the community there, Top Liners Community. So
Sweet.
that was fabulous. And then kind of over the years worked in customer success, customer marketing, customer advocacy, community building, kind of just that general realm at places like Workfront, Six Sense, had a great stand up Path Factory. So
We've heard of
really,
all those companies. Those are major brands. And you spoke with this umbrella, Heather. And as I talk to more people, as I have also branched out on my own in this consultancy, as you know, around helping come up with activation plays for these communities, for these networks of partnerships and stuff like that. Um,
mhm.
what is this bubble? What is the umbrella that all this fits under? Because I often find myself using all those buzzwords, and they're not really buzzwords, but descriptors, right? Customer marketing, customer community, and things like that. What's the key term that all this falls under? I'm not
It's a
saying there's a
good
clear
question.
answer, right? It's a
I know.
rhetorical question.
I'm currently using customer engagement, which I got from Kevin Lau, who's a great customer marketing colleague, and I worked with him briefly at Adobe.
Shout out again.
And yeah, so customer engagement feels like you're engaging with them, they're engaging with you, they're engaging with each other. So it kind of covers the whole gamut, I feel like.
I like that customer engagement very much so because it's not just about building a place where people sign up, but it's actually doing things that get them to engage deeper with each other. Right? There's just like that noun there paired with customer for sure. All right,
Yeah.
I got some rapid fire questions to throw at you, Heather, because I know you're a font of knowledge. I know you just described to us an illustrious resume where you've done a lot of things under this big umbrella of customer engagement. You've led teams, you've been an army of one, the whole deal. So let's just get into it, shall we? So
Let's
I had
do
this
it.
one here. You've done user conferences. You've helped launch a whole series of user meetups across international borders and national borders across major cities. You've helped set up customer advisory boards. Sounds like a good time, but it's not all fun and rainbows. Is there anything you'd say is kind of like your, maybe not secret sauce, but sort of the special thing that Heather Foeh likes to bring to any one of those given projects that you feel like sort of you index a little bit harder on or more than others who might be involved in the customer community and engagement side of things?
Hmm. Interesting. I mean, I do love the content piece of the in-person events. So
Yes.
especially user conferences of like, how do you line up a great slate of content that's not duplicative, that covers a gamut of all the people that are attending, and then also prepping those people, prepping the speakers to do a bang up job so that they have a great experience and feel really good about their opportunity, but also the people in the audience had a great experience. And so I do love geeking out on that, like the organization of it and the structure of like keeping all the ducks in a row and following up with people and getting to know them, honestly. Because once you get to know them, I don't then you've got like friends for life and you can tap into them for future events too. So love it.
Totally with that. And I can testify that that is a superpower and a passion of yours because, by way of background, how Heather and I know each other is I used to lead up the partnership between one of Six Sense's major services partners, 2X, and Six Sense. So, Heather and I, you and I have worked together when we've put on programming for your customer community. We're going to help like showcase 2X as a partner to those customers, or we've worked together on producing content for that annual customer meetup event that you're talking about. We've also done things for smaller regional meetups as well. And each time, beyond what I've worked with the average community leader and community manager, yes, you do that. You kind of give us notes about the presentation and the flow itself. What is the audience really kind of looking for, and what are they not looking for? Can you talk about that a little bit? How you have to sometimes crack the whip. Community people, it's all about, hey, bring people together, but you also need to uphold certain standards for this to work and for it to be a true win-win for everybody involved. So anything about that you have a skill with, how do you kind of gently lead community members to give you what you want and still get what they
Yeah.
want?
I do think there's a balancing act. Like you need to be direct and firm, but like nice. And so how do you, do that? I think what I always keep in mind is they want to walk away feeling good about it. And the way they're going to walk away feeling good is the feedback they're going to get from the audience. So it's like when you're giving someone some tough feedback, you're certainly doing it for their end outcome. It might be a little tough right now, but like in the end, they're going to get a better thing. You're also doing it for the 50 or 500 people that are in the room, and you're like the voice for them. So when you keep that in mind, it makes it a little easier to say, I think you need to get to the meat faster, or I think you need to jump into your topic quicker. I need your font size on these slides cannot be 9 point, my friend. It must be 16 point.
Oh, come
So
on.
just
No, you're right.
but it's the little things like that. And I think just saying them fairly matter of factly. And if needed, if it's tough feedback, saying, I really want this to be a success for you. And here's the two things you need to, I think, change in order to make that even more successful. And people are always receptive to it. It feels awkward the first few times you do it, but once you kind of get in a groove of being able to do that, it pays off.
I agree. I could tell when you were giving us feedback, you were doing on behalf of like the audience. This wasn't just like, this is Heather's opinion. I don't think this works or not. It's sort of like, this is what we're looking for. This is what the program promises people. So this is what we need you to kind of help us align so we can together fulfill that promise and that expectation of the audience. Because it's your reputation as well as the person that you're engaging
Exactly.
in front of that important audience. So that's really good. And I want to keep pulling on this thread because I saw you do this well. Sometimes a community manager does some of these grander stroke sort of things, bringing together panels of people, producing major breakout sessions or entire tracks for conferences and things like that. But it's also some tactical things that really make things, especially the online part of a community, work. You talked to us about some of those day-to-day sort of things that you had to do to help spin up some of these online communities that some community managers might overlook, figure it's, beneath their pay grade or something like that? What are some of the tactile, how does that show up for an online community as a community manager?
I always use this word matchmaking when I tell people like how to be a community manager. And I think there's so much of that connector vibe, which it's again, if you're doing the customer conference and you're helping with awards and you're doing advocacy program, you're kind of starting to know a good group of customers and what they're good at, where their strengths are, what topics they can discuss. And so you can pull that into an online community where someone might post a question about topic A, and you're like, oh, I know Bob, he spoke at the conference last year on topic A. I'm going to ping him and say, would you mind answering this question? And so that connector, matchmaker vibe, I really think that's the fuel to start building a good community. Once you've been doing that for a while, that flywheel kicks in and it takes on a life of its own and people sort of automatically do it, but they kind of need to be taught the vibe of how to act in the community. And so you doing those connections really gets that going.
I can once again underscore and advocate for what you just said, Heather, because I have a personal anecdote from your exact work in that area where you did that for us. We had signed up to the new-ish community at that time that you had helped launch with 6 Sense called RevCity, which is now over 10,000 members. Shout out to a lot of the momentum you helped, the groundwork you laid there. So we had signed up into it. We knew this is a good place we can connect with customers, show them we're a great partner, maybe do some business. But I wasn't focusing on it because you just never knew if you logged in at a certain time where you're going to find something that's relevant. And you took it upon yourself, like you just described, to ping me and go, hey, Nick, this person's looking for help in a certain part of managing their campaigns. Isn't that what your team at 2X does? Maybe you want to chime in here. You were absolutely right. I reach out to her. She gets back to us and becomes a major client for us.
Nice.
And I've never told you that, I think, straight up, because it didn't fully run through. I mean, they bought from 2X again and again. So it was that type of matchmaking. It's not just, oh, we get a couple of comments back and forth. Look, the thread is looking a bit more active today. The leaderboard is changed. No, this is true commerce can come out of that. If you're connecting partners to your customers that are in need, that's what you did there. Now, I want to ask your opinion when you think about two different types of gatherings, both of which I know you've helped be a part of, you've fed customers into and orchestrated. What do you think about the differences between the two? Hey, Heather, we need you and your team to organize an intimate roundtable of some of our customers to, hey, Heather, I need you guys to have a conference, like a user conference. What do you think are some of the biggest differences in how you might think about that and approach that, aside from the obvious of one might be 20 people, one might be 400 people? As a community person, like, where do you start to panic? Where do you start to worry or get excited or whatever it is when you think about the difference between those two events? They obviously can't be approached the same way.
No, that's true. I think the smaller events, I mean, this applies to any event you're going to put on, but you really need to make sure the people that signed up are going to attend, because you don't want 30 people signing up and 10 showing up. That feels awkward and weird, right? So there does need to be a more of a push there. And I think co-creation of the content with the attendees can help you get there, right? So, hey, friends, we've got these two topics we could potentially discuss. Which one is more up your alley, or do you have anything to chime in on, or could you share an example of? And then they start feeling some ownership of the event. I think that gets people excited to attend an event and makes them feel a little buy-in and like, oh, maybe I'm needed there. I should show up, right?
Yes. Yes.
So we all care about people showing up at anything we do, but I think it's more noticeable the smaller your starting group is, like a user group in a small city or something.
I almost wonder then, because I know your work and what you've done on larger events and stuff, that you maybe kind of take that model and just do it by breakout, almost like by track. It's sort of, let's an intimate event might be, in your description, sort of like the equivalent of the effort and the lift it takes to put together a single breakout type of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I think
best practices apply. Co-creation,
all the time.
Getting people invested, like making sure people are actually bought in, they're opted in, they're committed to showing up, so that you're designing for the right number of people or the right types of people and stuff.
I do think there's an element of discussion that needs to happen in a smaller vibe, in a smaller group too, that reminding the speaker that it's not just all about them, that they're there to facilitate discussion and make people feel like that's the beauty of a small event. You want to hear from other people. Whereas in a big user conference breakout, you've got a little time for Q&A at the end, and there's always that one person who wants to ask a very long-winded question to explain what they're, highlight what they're doing. I love those. But there is that difference of that mindset that you need to get the speaker involved with, I think, too.
Can we do a micro vignette on what you just said? Because you're right. This happens all the time. And every person who's done a content track for a conference is trying to keep a timeline, is trying to manage a Q&A or whatever, has had that person who has to somehow cram their entire situation into supposed to be like 30 seconds, more like 2.5 minutes before. Have you ever been like, so are you going to get to the question? Like, do you just go, oh, here is another one of those. I guess we budget for that. How do you rein that person in? Or you just say, you know what, hopefully it doesn't happen too often.
It hasn't happened often enough, egregiously enough to have to like truly cut them off and get through like, the hook, whatever. I think where it can often go is they've asked their question, they're starting to get an answer, and then now they're like delving into question 2 or the deeper thing. And it's like, it's very, very niche about them. That's what you don't want, right? So that's where it's time to be like, great question, Bob. We really are short on time, so we only have time for one other person to speak, and I want to make sure that they get the opportunity. And it's like, you got to nip that in the
We don't need live one-on-one consulting that we're all watching.
Right.
They're asking a question that can at least tangentially be applied to a good portion of the group. They've got good use of that airtime. If not, you're saying, hey, let's take it to a one-on-one. Let's table that to just get some more questions for the group. Makes total sense to me. I like that. I just like folks hearing like, just sort of like mentality from the trenches. Here's an odd one, but how does like branding and the company's voice and tone and stuff like that, how should that be factored in, if at all, when you're trying to create a community that's run by customers who don't have to adhere to that brand per se, but they're engaging in your branded community? Like, how much of that is the community supposed to have a persona, a character, a tone, or a vibe that somehow aligns with some branding initiative? How do you reconcile those two?
I'm glad you asked. I feel strongly that a community needs a vibe. It needs a personality. Your companies have their own like corporate brand, and some of it's more fun, some of it's more stuffy. Obviously you can see which side I lean on by the fact that I just used the word stuffy. But that's all fine. But like when you get down to like humans talking to humans, that's the point to have some fun and let it kind of grow from there. And so thankfully you mentioned RevCity for 6th Sense. Like 6th Sense has a fun, good brand. They're willing to have a good time. Like they've got some fun ads out there, and they've got News Team 6 reporters, and it's a good person facing brand. And so we already started RevCity with that. But I remember really early on in RevCity, a customer asked a question and said, hey, Rev heads, what do you think about blah, blah, blah? And it just stuck. Like from then on, I'd say 25 to 40% of the posts started with, hey, Rev heads, I've got a question. Or has anyone done this, Rev heads? And because of
a user came up with that. User just
totally came up with that. Yep. But they felt comfortable doing it. And 6th Sense had a good brand to say, we love this. Let's embrace it. At the recent Breakthrough Conference, they're giving out hats that say Rev heads, and people have all their photos. And if you look on LinkedIn, there's tons of baseball hats that say Rev head, So I like that organic feeling of it, right? It wasn't forced. It just happened, and everyone let it happen and encouraged it. Someone participated in the community and felt like they could do that, which is a great vibe.
Awesome. So you're speaking about examples of where customers, above average users, can give you great feedback that can shape the way that you approach your community strategy, maybe even like your company's branding and positioning. I wanted to see if you wanted to weigh in or give your 2 cents, Heather, in regards to customer advisory boards or customer councils and stuff like that. Are they a good secret weapon for this type of feedback? Or obviously product feedback, we know this, but also other types of feedback? Or in your opinion, can they just be an excuse to order fancy snacks and fly a bunch of people in to talk shops? I'm sure you've had different examples of both in certain flavors, but what ultimately makes a customer advisory board, from your perspective, genuinely impactful and worth it?
Honestly, the most impactful customer advisory board I've seen was the one at Workfront. The CEO is Alex Shootman, someone I had the pleasure of working with at Eloqua and then again at Workfront. And he, as the CEO, was very invested in the group. He had regular communications with them individually. He knew their strengths and weaknesses, and he used them as an advisory board on all parts of the business. Like, hey, we're thinking about changing some models in the customer success org, or some coverage things, or, we have some new messaging here from a sales perspective. And so it wasn't just product feedback. And it really came from him leading it and having those relationships and pulling people together. And it's one of the best, most dynamic and really close knit cabs I've ever seen, honestly, because of that. And so I think the key element there is really strong leadership who cares. If this is just sort of like a marketing initiative from someone like a community leader, a customer marketing leader, or a product director, someone who wants feedback, it'll do fine. It won't be exceptional. And I think the exceptional comes from really high leadership, caring deeply about it, spending a lot of time prepping, spending time following up, and kind of pinging those people in between those big meetings, which is a hard thing to do.
Yes, and I would pile on and say that's the same trend we see in successful partnership programs as well.
Yeah,
Why was the partner program such a standout success in the for 2X and for 6 Cents in their ecosystems? Because our CEO was heavily invested. He cared. It's not that he did all the work, and that's not what you're suggesting.
Right.
But it's very clear that they care, that they're paying attention to the thing that the rest of the CEO's team is helping execute and put together with those customers. There's just no substitute for that. And you've also shown that as your own level of leadership in the community, you're paying attention, you're caring. That's why you match make to people and stuff like that. As we somewhat close out here, Heather, I know there's people who are in positions or rising positions that you've been in, that you've described a little bit here, and they're running up against challenges. And I think probably one of the biggest challenges that anybody who's trying to build a customer community or build a partnership ecosystem and all the above is there's always excuses for not investing more in it, right? So do you have sort of a go-to mic drop response when someone says, is all this really worth it, Heather? Customer community, a whole ecosystem play here, like engaging all these people, is this really worth it?
Yeah. I mean, it's all back to data, and so many of us are data driven now, and companies are data driven. It's gone are those days of like, this seems like a good idea. Everyone has a community. Let's do it. It's like, no, you need to prove the value. And so writing some of that data into your CRM, when did someone sign up? When did they last visit the community? That kind of information. And then at the account level, how many people from this account are there? Then you can start tracking things like when people have 3 or more visitors to the community on a regular basis from a single account, their renewal rate is triple what everybody else is. Those kind of things, you can't argue with that, right? That's where the rubber meets the road. So the data then will speak for itself. There's always anecdotal things, and you'll have some nice, lovely, person in an account reach out to some exec at your company saying, hey, this has been great for my team or me. Those are great, but that's just a little zhuzh. Like, you really want those hard numbers in that data. And so you got to think about that. How are you going to connect those data pieces?
So, and that data is there, folks. I remember when I was on the content community team, what Heather's talking about was our saving grace. We were able to show similar ratios that she's talking about. A certain number of content touches, once you have a certain number of users that have signed up or certain users get certified and stuff like that, like it correlates strongly to larger deal sizes, faster deals, longer customer retention, more referrals or something like that. It's there if you're willing to focus on the data. But by the same coin, Heather, this doesn't always show up in month 1 or even month 3 or 4.
No.
How do you prove the value or somehow stall for time, however you look at it, to those skeptics who want those kind of instant results, and especially in this sort of fast-paced quarter-to-quarter B2B marketing world you and I live in?
There's definitely leading indicators that you could look at, like the number of active users, number of people that are coming back on a weekly basis, right? So Bessemer Ventures put out a really great study a couple of years ago about their best-in-class companies that are doing the best have 30% or more of their user base is engaged in their community. So not their user base, their account base. So it's on an account level, but 30% or more. So that's a number you can shoot for. Maybe it's going to be 5% in month 2. And by month 4, it's 9%, right? You can set some benchmarks and see that you're trending in the right direction. So knowing some of those numbers and pulling them, and being able to come and say 30% is best in class, and we're already at 20%. So we're on a trajectory. That kind of thing is like, okay, this person knows what they're doing. They've paid attention. They know where they're going. I can rest easy and know that they've got it handled.
Hope you're taking notes here, folks. There's some nuggets here that Heather's dropping. So Heather, how have you defined the borders of your remit, of your turf, of your fiefdom versus other definitely stakeholders within your organization, partnership, marketing, events, all these people, they either want to get in on what you're doing or you wish they were getting more in to help you do what you're trying to do. How have you encountered either of those extremes? And do you have any tips for people listening in here who feel like everybody seems to put it on? That's I heard customer sounds like the customer community person, a customer marketing person should handle this, when you're really thinking this is like everybody's job, or at least like a couple other people here. Any just thoughts or words from the wisdom from the road on getting those stakeholders to weigh in at the right time to do their part?
It's a great question. I think there's an element of building those relationships internally with your stakeholders, and it's brute force. Like, you have to go to their team meeting and say, hey, we're launching a community, or we're rejuvenating our community, or whatever the thing is that you want to explain to them. And what's in it for them? What can they get out of it? Give them a couple examples, like real life examples, not esoteric things that apply to that team. It's the product team you're talking to, the marketing team, the success team. Their examples need to apply to them. And you go and you do that one-on-one team meeting with that group 3 or 4 times during the year. You've got to keep those relationships going, because people invest in people they know and they've made a connection with, right? And if I've looked you in the eye and you've told me you're going to do something, it's a little harder to not do it. You can still not do it, but like, it's a little more uncomfortable to not do it. And those investments and those internal connections really add up to success when you need to tap in and get people to buy in.
You're right, Heather. I mean, I've witnessed it working with you. Like, my reciprocity naturally kicks in. I'm like, Heather's here on time. She has specific expectations. She's rooting for me. She's keeping a timeline. There's a whole program and checklist here. I can't fall behind. But I've also had similar experiences with people who are either sort of more like campaign managers or project managers who have to take on sourcing this content for this breakout or whatever it is, on top of sort of like everything else they're focusing on, and it's more about them checking a box. All right, you're going to be there. You have it. Okay, good. Moving on. You can't skip the caring part. And that's what I'm hearing from your description is, if we could summarize what you've been sharing with us for your keys to success, it's like spending time with customers, actually spending time with them, building relationships, looking them in the face, even if it's over Zoom. And it's also showing them you care with your time, with your attention, and your thoughtfulness. And then same thing with the internal stakeholders you just mentioned, as well as maybe partners in the ecosystem who kind of double as both. They're a bit of a hybrid. But if you spend time with them, that allows you to do the key piece that you say that I agree with is so key for activating and engaging your community, which is matchmaking. So you can then sort of matchmake, hey, I know somebody over here who's a customer who needs something over here from this partner or from this employee or from this program we're running. I'm going to help connect and broker and bring those two people together, but not just set it and forget it. Show them that I care. I'm going to follow up. And then make a story out of that, capture the KPIs, the metrics that come out of that, and start making that go viral internally and externally, right? Like evangelizing this type of stuff. She makes it sound easy, but it can be if you push ahead and you get some help from experts like Heather and stuff like that. So Heather, before we talk just in closing about what you have available for people who might want to get some help, so I do want you to think about that. What's a good toehold if they're like, whoa, Heather Foeh's seen some things. She's done some things. She helps people for this. Let us know where we can get started on that. But before you do that, last question is, you have seen many different customer community platforms. You have worked on putting together customers into in-person venues and environments and everything in between. If you could look at the tech, the infrastructure, the tools, the best practice, and you could wave your magic wand and add one dream feature or initiative to every customer community, or let's say your next big customer community you're focusing on helping to grow, what would it be that doesn't exist today? I guess I'm fishing for a future scaping a little bit of, I would like to have this in the future. If I could get a little bit more of this, I could really tear it up.
I actually would go back to the early days of building the Eloqua community for top liners. It was built on Jive. May Jive rest in peace. It was bought by Lithium. It was a big deal back into corals. Yeah, it was amazing. I loved it. It had an amazing feature right on the homepage feed where you had like what the latest posts were. There was a little box that said, "What are you doing today?" And it was like a tweet. It had 160 characters or whatever. And that feature, I will credit with making that community really grow and connect. Because people started out very much like, I'm building a new landing page for our annual event, or I'm doing, very work focused stuff. But over time, people kind of warmed up to each other, and they'll be like, I'm shopping for my outfit that I'm going to wear to the Marquee Awards at Eloqua Experience, or we just bought a new house, or I just found out I'm expecting twins, not one, but two. those kind of posts, I still remember them because they were big and there was a way to people thread and chimed in and commented. And so then when people saw each other in real life, they were like, "You're having twins. How cool. You just bought a new house." Like those things came together. I have not found a platform yet since those days that has that little feature, that just that getting to know you thing. And don't get me wrong, that could go super awry. I get it. Like, yeah, but that's where a good moderation comes in. We never had a problem. I'll be grateful. Right. That was a great feature. So someone needs to build that back in.
And what I love about that is that even if it doesn't get built back in or made available explicitly like that in a future platform, it's like you can still take that mentality. Any individual customer community member, because look, most customers are part of the community because there's something in it for them as well as the company, right? And they're looking to get things out of it that serves their selfish needs as well. But if they could just do that, I think that they could get more out of it. So I love that. That's a great suggestion there. So Heather, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. And I know that, again, you have, after several years at several different companies doing this full time and full focus for them, you're now offering this up as a business, as your own consultancy. Just want to tell us a little bit about that and where people can go to learn more, because I'm sure they'd like to explore maybe getting some help if you have it to offer.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. So I've got a website, heatherfoehconsulting.com. On there, I describe kind of my two main offerings: consulting for companies and coaching for individuals. So I do love coaching individual community managers or customer marketers. So someone kind of maybe newer in their career or changing careers or just stuck, needs some advice. And I can do it ad hoc, or we could do a series, but I love those coaching. And then on the consulting side, really kind of two focuses: community building or rejuvenating. I've got both of those right now as two clients. And then, but also in the area of customer marketing in general. So how do we spin up an advocacy program, or we're not measuring things, or what should we do with life cycle? Seems like most people are calling me these days for community, and I'm happy to be known for that. But I have done customer marketing for many, many years, and they're very intertwined. So
they're under the same umbrella, as you told us.
They are customer engagement. Yep.
Well, my friends who are listening, if you feel like you have those problems, and especially if the keyword is customer community and especially customer marketing, please contact Heather. And if the keyword for you with some of those things is like partnership heavy, contact me, and then I'm going to contact Heather to make sure that we can team up, and because I think they go hand in hand. And Heather may also bring up the fact that, what are you doing with your partners, Mr. and Mrs. Company, as well, because they can be a key part, as we've talked about, in the community. And Heather and I have seen how that can go well on both sides of the table. So just a great conversation, Heather. I'm just envious of that amazing, beautiful desert mountain vista you've got behind you, and that amazing mobile office adventure vehicle that you've got there, and your Christmas cheer. Just thanks for spending a little time with us and sharing some lessons.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Super pleasurable way to spend part of my afternoon.
Stay tuned, folks. So this is not the last you're going to hear of Heather Foeh and Nick Sal together on a single program. I can sense that. So we're going to be doing a few different things, but at least we address some top questions here for you. And the conversation will continue, Heather.
Right.
Awesome.
Sweet.
All right. That's our episode, folks. We'll be back with more on future episodes. We'll be talking to more people who are leaders, building up events, communities, and partnerships that make business and commerce in the world go around. And it was a pleasure to talk to Heather Foeh and to dive deep on customer community and customer content here today.